So the topic for today is about building resilience, which is, I believe, an essential skill for success. Now, why do we say that resilience is important? Why do we say resilience is a skill which helps us succeed? In my mind, resilience is something which is a combination of multiple skills. It's something which is inherent. It is something which an individual possesses. It's just the way you use it, how you use it, when do you use it, defines the final outcome. Is resilience really important? We will talk through it, and we will talk through certain examples, certain situations through which and how to build resilience. Moving forward. Yeah, it is. Thank you. Now, as I said, what is resilience? If I define it in a very, very simple words, is the ability to be able to come back to status quo after a situation has occurred. Yes, what do I mean by status quo? It may or may not be the same situation that we were in before a particular situation occurred, where we needed to be resilient. But having said that, I will also take you through the Oxford Dictionary definition here. It says resilience is defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, or the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. In two words, if I have to describe it, ability to bounce back. That is what resilience is. And in the situation that we are currently in, which is full of volatility, uncertainty, things are changing by the day, I think it is imperative that we all focus on building our resilience. And that is how we will be able to reach a situation where these difficulties, these tough situations do not bother us, or even if they bother us, the extent to which they bother us reduces substantially. Why is resilience important? I spoke about, resilience is important. It helps us. It's the ability to bounce back. It's ability to navigate through toughness, etc. But why is it important? So resilience is, so as human beings, we have this inherent nature of resisting change, especially when it is tough. It has a lot of hardships. If I talk about the current situation when we are all under lockdown, isn't it tough to stay home all day? To manage work, to manage everything around it. A lot of us face, we are lucky enough to have at least shelter, food to eat, internet, which gives us access to learning resources. But imagine, a situation where we did not have an internet. How difficult it would have been in today's world. Right? So it is a human nature to resist change, and the ability to survive through this change and to grow through the change and to thrive through the change is what is why resilience is important. It is important that we develop resilience, and I've been talking about it again and again because there are certain skills that we are born with, but resilience as a skill is something that we can develop. It can help us deal with the pressures and uncertainties of the environment. And it is not only valid in today's situation where, because of COVID-19, there's been a situation like this. But if you go back 3 months, when we were early in the year, or maybe, 2019, all of us who are part of the corporate world or are not a part of the corporate world know that, we have situations. Change is the only constant, right? So to navigate through change, to navigate through always going through changes that happen in our daily lives, be it corporate world, be it our life situations, whatever it is helpful that we are resilient individuals. It means that we have the ability to come back stronger from a situation. Imagine a situation where, you had a tough situation when you had your loved one or some, a close someone who wasn't well, or who was going through a difficult situation, and you were there to support the individual. It was tough for you as well. It's not only that it was tough for the individual who was going through that situation, right? But then when you see, and that's what we say, learning through experience. So when you saw that situation, you would have learned some things. You came out stronger with the learnings that you gained out of that situation. Right. Moving on, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I'm going to spend a little more time on how do we develop this skill, because that's exactly what that's the topic, resilience, a skill to success. Seems like a familiar face, right? Who are we talking about? We're talking about Mary Kom here. Now, there was a situation in 2011 before London Olympics when Mary Kom wanted to give up on the sport. The reason being that her son was diagnosed with a hole in the heart. But with her family besides her, with her husband beside her, she could continue the sport, and she actually ended up getting a bronze into the London Olympics. Did she quit after that? No, she did not. She went on to winning multiple other medals. And at the moment she was preparing for the Olympics that was supposed to be in Tokyo this year. She's also a part of the delegation, and she's because of her seniority and because of her experience, she's also advising the sports to be built to the next level. Did she stop? No. Did she face adversity? Yes. And if you talk about further earlier in her career, or in her life, she came from a very, very humble background. So for her to achieve this was something which was possibly unthinkable at that point of time, but she did achieve this. Talking about somebody whom we all know as the god of the game, cricket. Did Sachin face setbacks? Did Sachin go through tough situations? Did Sachin go through change? Yes, he did. We would all remember when he was, and especially people who've been following cricket, and I'm not sure, and that's why I picked up different fields of sport here, because sport is one of the best field where we can actually take lessons on resilience. He had a tennis elbow, and he had to go through a surgery for his tennis elbow, which meant he was out of the game for quite some time. What did he do at that point of time? Did he give up, or did he decide to come back and be in the same situation which he was before he had to quit the game for some time because of his tennis elbow? He did come back, but what did he do before that? He actually, during his rehabilitation for his physiotherapies, etc., he gave it much more longer time. He tweaked his game a little bit. He tweaked his technique a little bit, but he still remained in the game. He came back stronger. He performed better in the game. He still continued to get records on his name. Right? Now, completely from a different field. Do we recognize this poster? It's from a movie Lagan, which came way back in 2001. And I'm not sure what the audience age is, but then some of us would definitely relate to it. What did this movie tell us? This movie told us that we can challenge a situation. We can challenge a difficult situation. One individual needs to have that self-awareness, self-belief to challenge a particularly difficult situation and change things around. It's also a story of being resilient. There were multiple challenges, and people who've watched this movie would possibly relate to it. There are multiple challenges that came on the way of achieving a particular success, but they still managed to do it because the will was there, the willingness to achieve was there. They knew what they are good at, they knew what they are not good at, right? So what's the learning out of all the examples? And something and as I'm talking, something which comes to my mind also is, all of us have heard about Harry Potter. I think that's one of the best stories of resilience, of facing all the odds, being with your loved ones, being with your friends, and still being able to get through the difficult situations that we come to. Right? So the learning is that we all have the ability to bounce back. Some individuals depict it, some individuals display it, some individuals are aware of how to do it and they work on making that happen. Some of us need to build that. We have a journey to take, and we would ultimately be there if we know what is the path that we are going to be taking. Now, again, can we build resilience? I think I've already said, yes, we can. And that's the good news, right? We can build resilience. How can we build resilience? We'll go through that. It isn't a fixed trait. Like I said, there are certain traits of an individual, personality of an individual that are fixed. But resilience can be built, it can be bolstered. It's a bolster. You can bolster resilience by small changes in your thoughts, the way you behave, which will lead you to find your inner strength. And while I've been talking, you would be able to relate that, if you have to navigate through a tough situation, if you have to make your way through uncertainties, there's an inner strength that you require. And when you focus on these, you will be able to build resilience and come out as a more resilient individual. These are factors that would help people process the ordeal and become more adaptable. So it's about adapting to the change, right? It's about learning through the change. It's about being able to navigate through the situation. It can include multiple factors. And if you go on and read about resilience, there's enough literature that is available, and each author or each institute would have their own sets of things that they talk about on how we can build resilience. But if we sum it up all, and I've gone through multiple articles, I've read through it, I've spoken to a lot of people who have written, published articles in known journals, etc. It's about realistic planning. It is about having the social support. It is about having your inner strength and the emotional regulation. Right? It's about the ability to be able to talk through it. These combined is how we can build resilience, and I will talk more about it in the following slides. The first thing is, we should be able to accept change. When I say accept change, is basically be aware that we are in a situation which demands us to hold on, or which demands us to act in a certain way. Have our self-awareness. And what better situation than COVID, right? We never ever thought the situation that we are in. If somebody would have spoken to me in December, I would have never imagined I would be in a situation like this in March, right? It's an ever-changing situation. We didn't know the lockdown will get extended. We still don't know when we would be back to normal. We all hear about the new normal, what the new normal would be. Would the new normal be something which we had earlier, or would the new normal be something which would be defined now? All of us have been reading articles around, what different organizations are doing, what are the different steps the organizations are taking, etc. Right? But it's all about embracing the change that is happening, right? Did you ever think it would be normal to have your kids peep in when you're having a serious work conversation or something, a serious meeting where you may be discussing your goals, you may be discussing your comp reviews, you may be discussing anything under the sun, right? And your kids just pop up there. And I have been through multiple such situations where I have seen kids of my team members coming in, my kid coming in, etc. Have we accepted it? Yes, we have accepted it, right? A lot of us, the people, we know that there's a situation where, we would dress up, go to office, do things. Do we do that today? We're not doing it today, right? We're still working. Has the productivity taken a hit? Maybe, may not be, So all these are changing situations, which if we are resilient individuals, we need to learn to accept change. If I talk about my story, the first week when I started working from home was okay, normal, because I have been used to taking some time working from home, etc. But for a lot of people in my team, it was very difficult. Second week, it was difficult and challenging for me as well. It was extremely difficult. I felt I can't work. I can't survive through this if this has to continue. Third week, it was fine. I started getting used to the rhythm. I set up some time for myself, etc., etc. Fourth week, it became normal for me. And I'm sure this phase, a lot of us have gone through. The important part here again is the ability to be able to accept the change. We can crib about it, we can talk about it, whatever we can do, but we should, in our minds, be open to understanding change is the only constant in the world. Moving on, how do we train our minds? And training of our minds is important to develop this skill called resilience. We need to learn continuously, right? It's not like we only need to be learning in tough situations, but to develop this skill we need to learn continuously. And how does this learning continuously help us? It gives us new perspectives. It opens new paradigms for us. It makes us understand what is it, and it need not necessarily be in your area of interest, in your area of work. It could be anything. It's just that about learning continuously. And people who are active on social media, you would see a lot of people saying, we're learning this new skill, we're learning to play guitar, we're learning to do yoga, whatever. There are multiple things that we can learn, and it need not necessarily be, even if it is work related. Why not just look at something which we've never had the opportunity? If I talk about myself, I decided that I will pick up a particular area of interest that I have, which is not directly related to my work, but I will read through it. I will go through the training programs available. I will attend sessions, online sessions that are available, and so on and so forth. What it does, it gives us wider perspective. When we get this wider perspective, and when we are in a change, we are able to connect the dots to a lot of things. And when we are able to connect these dots is when we understand that we could be dealing with the situation with more grit, with more determination. It also helps us become more present in the situation, makes us more aware, makes us mentally tough. Why does it make us mentally tough? Because we know, we have a huge repository of knowledge with us, and that's how our mental toughness builds. It's important for us also to be able to understand different perspectives, because when we are in a tough situation, let's take a situation, let's take an example of, someone who's lost a very close, who's lost somebody very close. It could be to any illness, it could be for any reason, it could be just because, you are far away and you're not able to connect as often as you would want, right? If you were not to learn and understand new technologies, how would you connect? If you were not to learn, how would you know what are the cures available? Right? So learning continuously holds true in any situation that we are in. Take charge. I think this is the most important and even favorite for me. We can't be sitting and saying, what do I do about this? There's so much uncertainty, there's so much chaos, nobody knows what's happening around. I don't know. I've been in this situation over and over again in my life. It doesn't help. It just doesn't help. We need to take charge. It's taking charge of the situation. It's taking charge of oneself. We need to find what our inner strength is. We need to understand what is the differentiation that we bring along ourselves. I could be good at a particular thing. I may not be good at 100 other things. But if I know what is it that I am good at, what gets me out of the bed every morning, I would be able to take charge of myself, of my life. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do, indeed. But we can do this, and I'm not going into saying, we should be mindful, we should, etc., etc. How do you learn to take charge is more about training your mind than anything else. But the most important part here is the moment you take charge, you will be able to navigate through the tough situations. We need to have a plan. For some people, an action plan works. For some people, it is like, let us see how it comes. Let us take one day at a time. Let us figure out. As we go, we will figure it out. It's fine. Any approach is fine. Whatever approach works for you. The only thing to remember here is that you are taking charge of yourself. You are not becoming a victim to the situation. Because again, as I said, change is constant, change will continue, it will be tough, it's not going to be easy always. But if you are in charge of yourself, your emotions, your mind, it becomes a little better. And you know where you're heading. We don't know where we're heading with COVID, right? But sitting at home and scribbling and thinking, oh my God, I I couldn't go out. I'm not able to meet my friends. Or for some people, even I'm not able to go to office. Right? We didn't know we will miss office as much as we're missing it now. At least I'm missing office quite a bit. How many of us actually thought we would miss office? But the truth is that a lot of people are missing office, right? But if we know that we are in charge of our mind, we know that we look at it from a positive angle, we will be able to sail through the situation, and we will be able to also figure out what the situation brings for us at the end of it. If we would have ever thought we will spend time with the loved ones, for so many days put together, we would have never imagined. I was talking early today to somebody who said, Raksha, has never been so long that I've stayed in one city. 60 days in one city has never happened in the last 12 years for me. Imagine, for somebody like who's been traveling constantly on travel, how much of a relief it would have been not to travel, to let the body rest, to let the mind rest. So it is important that we build that mental strength, and that's how we will take charge. Moving on, build purpose. It can get philosophical here, and I will try and stay away from that because we read enough about it. But when I say build purpose, to me, it means set something for yourself, set a goal for yourself. Think what you enjoy doing. Think what makes you put an extra effort into something. If you, for instance, like to exercise, you would make anything happen. You would figure out your schedule accordingly that you give that time to exercise. People who train regularly for running, they take out those 4 or 5 hours in a day when they're training for marathons. How do you take out that time? We're all short of time always. But it is about a purpose that they have. They need to run a marathon. Right? Remember our earlier days when we used to have exams? I mean, some of us still do have in the professional world also. And some of us feel we are having our exams and our kids have their assessments. But imagine, just go back to your childhood days when you used to have your exams or maybe your board. You would know you would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or you would be awake all night. Different people have different routines, but you had a purpose. You had something to look for. I have an exam which I need to clear. Right? So may not be as grilling, but all of us, let's look at building a purpose. You cannot have your days go by saying, okay, I have nothing to look forward to. There is something that to look forward to. We all should be able to introspect and figure out what it is. What makes us go that extra mile for something. And that is what your purpose is. That is what would make you come out of a difficult situation. If you are ailing, if you're not well, you would want, your purpose is to become healthier, right? And that is what makes you do a lot of things. Similarly, in normal situations, and God forbid anybody falls ill, but whenever, it's in a normal life, we should all have a purpose. And when we have that purpose, we are able to focus on that. The next thing that I have is the most important. All of what I said and all of what I spoke ultimately, is something which is this. Let's just be happy. Sounds simple. Somebody told me simple is not easy. And it was on my status for a very long time. It is simple, but it's not as easy as it sounds to be. How can we be happy? It's not a happiness program, but how can we be happy? Cultivate relationships. It could be any relationship. It could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be your relationship with God, it could be anything. Cultivate relationships. Have somebody whom you can lean on, whom you can talk. And if you go back to my first slide, I said, the power to be able to communicate. This is what it means. You should be able to communicate. And that's what makes you happy. We all know when we sit with our friends or family whom we are close to, we can talk about anything and we feel relieved and happy after that. Why is it? Has the person been able to help us through a situation? May or may not be, right? But when we're able to talk about our feelings, about our fears, it makes us happy. And that is what is important. If I as an individual like to sit on, and have a bowl of popcorn watching, binge watching on Netflix, and that makes me happy on a particular day, why not? Don't feel guilty about it. There could be multiple things that makes an individual happy. Maybe baking a cake, maybe going out on a walk. Yeah, we can't go out on a walk right now, but we can walk within our homes. It could be multiple things that could make you happy, right? It could be, whatever it could be. It could be about reading a book. Sometimes, we feel that we have missed on certain things in life. We've not been able to do it. And when we are able to do it, any day that we are able to do it, it makes us happy. Because there's a sense of fulfillment, there's a sense of achievement that we get from there. So we should strive towards doing things which make us happy. For me personally, I every day when I go to bed, before that I think, what are the things that made me smile the most today? We all try and practice gratitude, but for me it's important that I think about what were the things that made me smile in the day. And I asked my son, I said, what made you smile today? What did you enjoy the most today? Even when he used to have his school, he would come back and I would ask him, what was that made you laugh today? What mischief that you guys did today which made you laugh? And things like that, So it is important to be happy. And again, talking about, having a purpose, or, being aware, etc., etc., all of it leads to being happy. If you are happy, you will be able to focus. When you will be able to focus, you will be able to learn. You will be able to control your emotions. You will be able to communicate better. And all of this finally would lead you to building resilience, being a resilient individual. It's about self-awareness, learning, communicating, having that emotional and mental strength, and all of these things. And I purposely chose this picture of a kid here, because resilience is something that we can learn from kids. I'm sure, you would have seen kids around, you would have your own kids, etc. If they have something in mind, they will keep thinking about it. They will keep thinking about it. They will find ways and means to do it. If a kid has to ask you to get something, for instance, my son wanted to get a laptop on his birthday. There would be 100 ways that he will figure out on why he wants that laptop and why I should get him that laptop. That is resilience. I will say, no, okay, I won't get it, but he will find another way to convince me. If I say, it is not important for you at this age, he will find 100 things to tell me on why is it important for me to get a laptop for him at that age, and so on. So it's about being curious. It's about not getting demotivated and demoralized in a particular situation. And obviously, current situation, I keep referring back to this situation because we all know that this is taking, a huge mind share for us. But if you observe kids around, right, they're happy in their own world. They may not be going out to play. They may not be meeting their friends, whatever. But they've still figured it out how to be happy. They'll keep laughing. They'll keep smiling. They'll have their own ways of figuring out what are the things that they can do. How can they invent and how they can create new ways of playing, new ways of keeping themselves engaged, right? So kids are someone whom we can observe and learn resilience from. They're the best examples. And with that, thank you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. And at the end of the slide, and I will be uploading this, there's some of the useful resources that I loved reading. I read a lot about it. I loved some of them and I have put them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raksha. It was a wonderful session with a lot of positivity and something that we actually are looking forward to have in this particular time. Thank you so much for having that. I request you to please, if possible, send the link you mentioned in the last slide in the chat box, because I think some of us won't be able to click and go through the link. So if it's possible, if you can just put it in the chat box, it will be really helpful. Guys, I think you've muted yourself. Can you just check? Oh, okay. Guys, we are opening the session for question answers. So in case you have any questions, you can start writing it in the chat box. So, Raksha, I had one question. Like when we are talking about building resilience as a process, right? Obviously, it
Yes.
takes some time for us to, understand that okay, we are stuck in a difficult situation, and then how do you kind of grow from it and out of it, and get what you actually need to do. So, on a day-to-day basis, do you recommend some things that we should do in terms of reading, or in terms of meditation, or in terms of any routine that we can kind of craft around us, which will actually help us in the process of building resilience?
Yes, it's like anything else, if you need to do, you need to be very, very mindful about things. So I spoke about accepting change, I spoke about learning continuously, building emotional strength, building mental strength, etc. These all are things which need a lot of practice. These need awareness about that you're building, you're working towards it. So out of, so I'm not saying that everybody does not have all of this. If I am somebody likes to learn, who likes to read about things, who likes to keep yourself updated about things, but I fear change, I fear change, then I should be focused on this parameter saying, yes, I know I fear change. I would look at it on how next time I'm in a situation which demands me to change the way I work, the way I operate, the way I plan my schedules, I would look at it in a more holistic way. I'm aware of at least that, I am afraid of change. I find it difficult to change. Or someone who, who's constantly in that zone of you saying, yeah, this doesn't bring me happiness. I'm not happy at the end of the day. Figure out what makes you happy. It's about training your mind, and training your mind can be done in different ways. There are mindfulness sessions, there's concentration that you can build. There's exercise is a great form of building mental strength and physical strength. It's different parameters, it's different things that work at individuals. But as you asked, we need to have a plan around it, and the plan would look different for each.
Right. Makes sense. I think we have a few questions. Raksha, I would just like to read them out to you. First, Samira asks, is resilience required only in tough times?
No, I don't think resilience is required only in tough times. Resilience is a skill or is an inherent trait that we should work upon building more. And as I said, very simple situation. You get into difficult situations or tough situations all the time. You get into setbacks all the time. It's the ability to be able to come through. It could be very simple. It could be as simple as you're getting late for a meeting, you run to your parking and you see that you have a flat tire. How do you respond to it? How do you react? Very simple example, right? And all of us would have faced this. It's about being accepting the fact that yes, there's a situation and we need to figure out a different way to it. It is a difficult situation because you get late for a meeting. You don't know what's going to happen if you are late for that meeting and so on. But since you know that you need to manage that, you need to think through it. It's about it. So it's not only in tough situations, but it's in situations which require you to act a little differently from what you would normally act.
The next question is from Sharath, and he's asking how to control a situation when it turns against a person, because sometimes one will lose his control and act differently with anger.
Okay. How to control the situations when it turns against, right? That's the question. Because
Sometimes the person can lose control and act differently because he's angry. And how do you control that?
Okay, how do you control that situation? Great question, Sharat. So it relates directly to mindfulness, and in mindfulness, there's a particular trait being saying self-awareness. So, a lot of times we are angry, right? And that's exactly the situation they're saying. Now, anger is a feeling, right? If you're self-aware and you know that you are getting angry, it's a feeling that you are getting. So I feel angry versus I am angry. When you should be able to get into a situation where you say, I feel angry. If you start feeling this emotions, you will be able to respond rather than react to it. So it's about responding to a situation than reacting. Go back, think a couple of situations where you actually reacted and figure out if you had not reacted but thought through it and responded, how it is. And that would come when you're building your inner strength and your mental strength.
I think the next question is in line with what you have just said. Self-awareness and finding out your inner strength. Can you shed more light on that? How do I find out my strengths? Suchitra is asking.
Sure. So how do you find your strength, basically, right? So one is, stop taking things personally. Figure out and believe in yourself. Figure out what your strength is, believe in yourself. Now, how do you figure out that strength is your question, right? Ask yourself, why are you unique? What makes you unique? And believe me, all of us are unique. We have our own set of uh, individual skills or unique skills that we bring to the world. What makes you feel excited? That makes you excited to get out of bed. It could be as simple as making a tea for yourself, a cup of tea, and having that in the morning. But what is it? So you will have to think through what makes you good in a particular thing. Some people say I'm very good at organizing events and fests. What does that mean? That means that the individual enjoys working with people. You know, somebody feels that they are very good at singing or learning languages. That's their strength. So you will have to think through what you have as a unique capability. You will have to think through certain situations and how you dealt with the situation and then draw common threads out of it. It's also about self-esteem in a way, because it is also about self-esteem. What have you accomplished in the past? If you look at your accomplishments, it will help you build on your self-esteem, which will help you realize what your strengths are. Does that answer?
Hopefully, I think we'll have to wait for this response. Okay, the next question is there any way we can measure individual resilience trait?
Sorry, Ankita, your voice was breaking.
Sorry, let me repeat it. Is there any way we can measure individual resilience trait?
How can we measure resilience trait, right? Is there any way that we can measure resilience? It is about very simple measurement. When you were in a tough situation, or when you actually, and COVID is a classic example here. If you are in the situation, when the situation started, when you were advised to be at home when the lockdown started or whatever, maybe you are somebody who never worked from home. Maybe you are someone who wasn't used to virtual meetings. You were somebody who loved meeting people every day and seeing your teams every day. How did you go through the situation? Were you happy about it? Were you very, very skeptical about it? Did it kind of render sleepless nights for you? How did this entire thing happen for you? How did you take it? Right. So think through those, and that's how you will be able to figure out how resilient you are. If it meant that you were very, very nervous about the entire change in the situation, change in the way you operate on a day-to-day basis, it meant that your resilience score is low. But if you were okay about it, yeah, we all know it's a difficult situation. We will sail through it. All that I need is some support. I need to talk to people, etc. You're possibly a little high on that resilience. Are you being happy? And I actually filtered a lot of things, and I just kind of said, these are the 5 things that we work on individually. We know that we can become resilient individuals. Are you happy? Are you learning? Cultivate relationships, etc. All of these will help you understand where are you on the resilience trait. But yes, if you ask me, is there a defined model? I don't have that model. Maybe we do some more research and get there.
Right, right. I think we have a couple of more questions, Raksha, if you are okay. I just keep asking. Yeah.
Sure,
Uh,
Ankita, go ahead.
then the next question is anything on how to overcome criticism. Oh, that's an interesting thing.
It needs a lot of mental strength, honestly, to overcome criticism. Um, it needs to understand and it needs to let go. I think that's an important thing. You need to let go of certain things. There would be people always who will criticize you, but it's important to figure out what your uh, what your long-term goal is. What other, you know, whatever you were criticized for, or whatever is anyone criticized for. What was the reason? And when you take charge of yourself, I think it becomes a little easy to overcome criticism, because then you know, uh, and you're able to put things in the larger context.
The next question is from Sonam.
Hmm.
How do you keep up when you find yourself stuck in a situation where you can come out only by losing something important? What do you do?
Okay. Great question, Sonam. It's about, so for me, if I have to look at it personally, if I have to overcome a situation where it's about losing something, it's about defining what is important to me. Having a clear sense of uh, what the situation is, what's the purpose of that situation, and what am I going to lose. And that's why I said it is important to build relationships. It is important to understand what makes us happy, because obviously if you are in a tough situation and you're trying to come out of it, it is obviously you want to be happy after that, or you want to come back to a state where you were before that situation occurred. So develop possibly a thought on personal why. What gives you, what is meaningful to you, what is more meaningful, and then put things in context, build perspective around it, and that is how possibly you would be able to decide on what is important and what is it okay for you to let go.
Uh, Harshit has a question. He's asking how to
Hmm.
overcome stress, especially when it comes back in so
Especially when,
some way, some way or the other. How can we build resilience to stress?
okay, so how can we build resilience to stress, and how can we avoid stress, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So first is, don't stress yourself, don't stress others, is what I would say to start with, and that was on a light note. How do you avoid stress? So first you will have to figure out what is causing stress, which means that you will have to be aware of the situation that you are in, and are you responding to it, and are you reacting to it. Stress can be for multiple reasons. You cannot control anybody else, you can only control yourself, right? So how do you control yourself so that you are not in a stressful situation? You can't change anything around you, all you can change is yourself, right? So figure out what in a particular situation causes stress for you. If I have a tight deadline to meet, let's say I have something to do 2 days later, a presentation to make, or maybe I have to go somewhere and I have packing to do, etc. Does that create stress for me? Why not do it right away and get over? Why put it till the last moment? Some people enjoy doing it at the last moment. For them it's more about fun, or it gives them a kind of a kick, to do it at the last moment. It's fine. But if you think that is something that causes stress for you, the thought about delivering on a particular thing or being able to do a particular thing as per the defined timelines, do it now. And there could be multiple such situations, so you will have to realize what is causing stress to you. Is getting up in the morning causing stress for you? It does for a lot of us, right? If it does, then what do we do to figure out how do we navigate through that? Maybe we sleep early, maybe we have a routine which we enjoy after we get up, and things like that. So it would be for us to identify what are the triggers for that stress for us, and then try and solve for it.
Okay. I think we don't have any more questions. Uh, yeah. Okay, Raksha, thank you so much for such a wonderful session. I see that, for how much of a time you spoke, it was so actually connecting to a lot of people that we actually spent up the same amount of time in the question answer session as well. So that actually tells you the kind of importance of the topic and how people are eager to listen to this topic. So thank you so much for giving this session. Guys, thank you so much for attending. I just want to speak a little bit about the upcoming session, which is going to be on 24th. Is going to be by Meghna, and she is going to discuss something very important that we all of us should know about. It's about mental health during difficult times. So many of us unknowingly are going through some of the other mental stress, and someone like Meghna, who is a mental health practitioner, can definitely talk more sense to us. So the session is going to be on coming Friday at 4 o'clock. So I request all of you to please go register and attend that session as well. Having said that, Raksha has shared all the links that she had put I think on her presentation. So
Yes.
if you guys are interested, please go through all the links, and you can just copy paste the entire thing and then see it whenever you have time. Thank you so much, Raksha, for giving this session. It was really wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. Let's see you on Friday.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure. Thank you, Murli. Thank you, Ankita.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.